Welcome to the Perfectly Flawed podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. For those that don't know you, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, thanks so much for having me, Renee. My name's Emily Abbot. I'm a member of the first ever Rhythmic Gymnastics group to go to the Olympic Games for Rhythmic Gymnastics. So we hit the floor in Tokyo and it was just absolutely incredible. I am 24 years old. I'm originally from Adelaide, but I moved to be a part of the group in late 2018. And I am currently a deferred university student. I'm going back next year and I'm going to be studying my psychology honours degree. My main career goal is to be a developmental psychologist, so working with people with special needs. I'm currently a disability support worker out of the gym and I just absolutely love it. It's the most rewarding job I've done in my whole entire life. It's actually changed the way I see the whole entire world and go about everything I do, really. I absolutely love it. And yeah, that's basically what I do. And yeah, that's what I do. Can't think of anything else. That's me.
That's amazing. I think it's so important what you're doing. It's such a crucial part in life to be able to support those that are most vulnerable, whether that's through special needs or people's mental health. I think it's a really important job to have.
Yeah, well, I thought going into the work, I would be helping out other people, but it's actually been the opposite way around. They've changed my life, and through being a gymnast, because I'm up here by myself training in Brisbane, I don't have my family up here. They've sort of become my family. Like all the children and their families have become a part of my family, and they're actually my rocks since I've been up here. So if I'm having a bad day, I go to them and they make my day better. So I don't think I could have got through the last 3 years without my beautiful little friends and their families.
I know it's amazing. It's so interesting because when I started this podcast, my main goal that I had in mind, my main focus was starting a conversation and, making people that are listening feel less alone, whether that's in a sporting aspect or a mental health aspect, like, oh, I actually have those feelings too. That's really cool that someone else feels that way as well. And I think I've learnt more than everybody combined.
Yeah, it's funny how it sort of turns on you, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so good though. I'm like, I've learnt so much and I did not expect it.
Yeah, for sure.
It's amazing. How did you get into gymnastics?
I started gymnastics. I was about 9.5. I was turning 10, and I would cartwheel absolutely everywhere. And I always wanted to learn how to do a flip, but I was a little netballer and I was cartwheeling around the school. I was terrible at netball, by the way. I was very short. I didn't even understand the rules. I'd pop it under my wing and run to the end of the court and shoot for it. And I was a little centre. I just had no idea what was going on. But no, I was cartwheeling at school and a family friend came up to me and they said, you should come try gymnastics with us this weekend. I thought, oh, this is so exciting. I'd love to do that. So I thought I'd be learning flips and all of that fun stuff. I rock up and I get handed a hoop. Like, what is this? I'd never even heard of rhythmic gymnastics before. So rhythmic gymnastics, has hoop, ball, clubs, ribbons. Never seen it, never heard of it in my life. But I absolutely fell in love with it and yeah, have been doing it for almost 15 years now.
That's amazing. I remember watching it like from Tokyo and watching the rhythmic gymnastics. I'm like, this is amazing. Like how high like some people throw the ball and be able to catch it in not just your hands but any other body part. I'm like, I can't even do that normally, like a ball just being thrown at me. I'll probably miss it. Like my hand and eye coordination is just not there. So I think it's amazing.
But yeah, people even think because we make it look so easy. The Belarusians and the Russians and that sort of thing, they're training 8, 9, 10 hours a day to make it look that easy. So lots of people think, the sport's a little bit funny and too easy, but my goodness, it's hard work. And we went to a Belarusian camp at the end of 2019 and it was the hardest thing I've done in my whole entire life, but it was the best thing. I don't think we could have made the Olympics without going to that camp. It was just otherworldly.
Yeah, I can imagine it would be. I mean, I'm coming from a swimming background, so I'm don't have a full understanding of what the training looks like for you. Would you like to expand a little bit more? How much do you train? Like, what does it involve? What does it look like?
So in Australia, we're we're not professional athletes, we're self-funded, so we have to work, and lots of us go to university and that sort of thing. So we train 2 times a day. We don't train the 8 hours like our counterparts. We train about 5-6 hours a day, and then afterwards I'll go to the gym or something and do an extra session of cardio or something, rehab. But yeah, basically in the morning it's a quick session. We do it before school starts because we train at a school, and we just do, light touch on the apparatus, get right into it. The afternoons are more, 3.5, 4 hours, and we do, warm up, flexibility, strength, and then just basically bang out the apparatus. At the moment, we are after competition season. So competition season ended after the Olympics. We were supposed to go to the World Championships, which are going to be held in October, but due to COVID and Australia restrictions, we can't travel there, and we don't have a likely chance of getting back anytime soon. We'd be stuck over there pretty much. So now I've decided I'm going to try and go to the next 2024 Olympic Games in Paris with a team. So that's what we're going to be working hard for. So just creating routines at the moment, but slowly getting back into it. At the moment, I can't train. Well, I'm training 2 hours a day, but it's sitting on a chair because I fractured my foot before I went to the Olympics and competed on it. And then hotel quarantine, you can't get treatment. So I've got my foot in a nice boot and we're on crutches at the moment, but no, we're gonna get back into it. I'm really determined for 2024.
How did you fracture your foot?
Oh, I had a bit of a stress reaction. So I could feel something in my foot for a few months. The bone started hurting a couple of months before we went to the AIS, which was a bubble situation for 2 weeks before we went to Tokyo. We got the scans, stress reaction, put myself in the boot, which should be fine. But yeah, a few days before we started competing in Tokyo, I could feel the bottom of my foot was really sore. So we knew that that was the fracture then. So we're getting treated for it now. It's going to be a little bit of a road back because the recovery window was sort of fludged. But to go on to the Olympics, I would compete on a broken foot any day of the week just to do that again, because I don't even care. It was the best time of my whole entire life. Even the closing ceremony, I was bopping around at the closing ceremony. I made the most of all of it because who knows, I had the goal to go the next one as well, but you never know what the future holds. So make the most of it while you're there.
I think that's a really great attitude to have. How did you end up going? I mean, obviously you weren't physically at your best because of your foot, but how did you perform?
I've never felt like that performing in my whole entire life, because at gymnastics and in the last 15 years, I've always been wanting to go to the Olympics. And so every day I've worked extremely hard. That's how I've been brought up. I've seen my parents, work 120 hours a week. My dad's like my biggest inspiration in the whole entire world. I used to go to work with him. I'd pack all the orders and do the deliveries with him. I'd drive the forklift at 9 years old. So I was always brought up on hard work. So I didn't want to go to the Olympics, something I've always wanted to go to and be scared on the floor. So I asked one of the trampoline athletes that had just finished competing in Tokyo, his name's Dominic, and he just absolutely smashed it, made the finals. He's an absolute legend. And he looked like he just absolutely enjoyed it. And I said to him, what's your secret? What do you think I should hit the floor like? And he goes, whatever you do, just go out there and soak up the experience and just have an absolute ball. So that's exactly what I did. I didn't care about my foot. I wanted to go out there for my group and do the absolute best that I could for them. So I've genuinely never felt like that much in the zone, experienced that much enjoyment on the floor in my whole entire life. It was just everything I wanted and more. It didn't feel like there was an empty seat in that 15,000 seat stadium that had no one. It felt like it was full. It was just, the atmosphere was incredible and I couldn't have asked for a better experience, to be honest.
That's so good that you were able to do that. And I think something that I've picked up along the way is that we get very caught up in our own head leading into a big competition, and we can very easily psych ourselves out. And I think a really important thing to remember is that the reason why we started doing the sport that we started because we love it. We get enjoyment from it. And we wouldn't work this hard or do as many hours that we do if we didn't love it. And I think that sometimes gets lost along the way.
Yeah, for sure. That was when I watched back the performance, I can even feel like how I felt, and it was just, so much joy. And that's how I began. I always loved performing, and I went out there and I just made sure that I do what I love best, and hopefully, yeah, because I've always really struggled with nerves at competition and putting too much pressure. I put so much pressure on myself, but for this and for the team, for Australia and everyone watching at home that couldn't be there, I didn't want to do that. This was the competition that I wanted to change that all. So, loved it.
Absolutely. You said that you normally get quite nervous and put a lot of pressure on yourself. What is that like? How does that come out in physically, mentally, and what sort of effect does that have on your performance?
Yeah, I've had to do lots of sports psychology sessions on this because I'm not a talented gymnast. I've always been someone that's had to work really hard to, get to where I am. And, my teammates are absolutely incredible every single session. They inspire me to be a better gymnast. They're amazing. So I always feel, I don't know, it's a bit of imposter syndrome. So I always feel like I'm the worst in the room and I don't deserve to be there. So I struggle a lot with negative self-talk, and I always imagine what people are thinking of me, especially when things are going wrong. So I've really struggled with that. So I've been working with the most amazing sports psychologist for, about a year now, and he's been really helping me. And he's just, he said absolutely everyone experiences imposter syndrome. But there was a point where there was about 9 months that we were, so basically there's 5 of us at the Olympics, but there's always been, until this year, there was always 6. So there'd be 5 gymnasts on the floor, but one person would swap out for one routine and the 6th gymnast would come in. That rule changed at this Olympics. So we went through about a 9-month stint where we would trial to be the final 5 that step onto the competition floor. And that was really difficult because that whole 9 months, every single day, I was like, oh my goodness, these girls are so much better than me. I'm not going to make it in this team. And it just felt like I was drowning in my own negative self-talk. But in the end, you sort of just, I don't know how I got through that. It was a lot of sports psychology, but it was also reminding myself of all the hard work, all the injuries I've gone through and got out the other side. Because, I've had 2 hip surgeries, I've had concussion, I've had injuries, and all I did was want to get back onto the floor. So just remembering how much I love it and how much I wanted to be in that team and in the sport meant more than, the negative self-talk and all the disruptions I had in training and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think imposter syndrome is something that definitely comes up a lot and definitely something I can relate to. I think it always comes back to, you kind of feel it's not kind of like an out of body experience where it's like, I don't know if I should be here.
Mm-hmm.
As you said, you're very much just drowning in it and thinking that everybody's better than you and second guessing, when you stuff up, what did that person think of me? They probably think I'm really bad and I shouldn't be here. And almost reassuring yourself that your beliefs are true.
And I think what helps is, because I'm someone that needs to speak if there's something in my mind. I don't like bottling something up. So I'm a very open person. So I'll just tell my teammates, I'm like, look, this is how I'm feeling right now. And they can see me when I'm getting stressed. Like I just bubble up and I sort of seize up and I'm throwing things in the wrong place and that sort of thing. But I think what's special about being in a team is they help bring me up and they'd go, Emily, you're fine, relax, you can do it. And my coach would be like, Emily, you've done all these extra hours, you know what's in your body, just relax and do it. So I think also having an amazing support network really helped me, especially at the Olympics, because even a couple of days before I went on the floor at the training session, I always stay back at training and I do, extra throws and that sort of thing. So I was throwing this thing all over the place. And my coach would go, Emily, you know what to do. You've done the work. Just relax. And same with my teammate Lexi, like this particular move, like, Emily, you know what to do. So I think it's also not just about yourself and, sports psychology, but surrounding yourself with people that lift you up when you need it as well.
Yeah, the support network can be crucial. And I think not even just coach or teammates, but even outside that, like family, friends, and making sure that they understand, particularly I think friends, I guess, coming through that high school sort of phase where some people that aren't involved in sport or have sort of left sport, that chapter of their life behind them and moving on to the next thing, whether that's career or having a relationship, whatever that may be, they sort of forget the commitment that is required. And so it's like, oh, sorry, I can't come out tonight. I've got training the next morning, or I can't come to the beach on the weekend, I've got a competition, whatever it may be. Sometimes having that understanding can be really helpful, and having that understanding of that you can't turn up to a certain function, you feel very supported in it.
Yeah. And I think the problem with me is that I've had a bit of a lack of life sport balance. I've sort of always been, it's just gymnastics sort of thing. So I've sort of lost a few people along the way and haven't even thought, I haven't even thought about doing those sort of things. So I think moving forward, I need to be a bit more, because you that's so one-sided, just doing it for the sport. And I think that's really unhealthy. And it's been what I've been doing since I've lived here. It's just been gymnastics. So I think going forward, it's important for me to realise that then there is an importance of a life sport balance. That's what I need to do more. And I think I'll be a better gymnast because of it, because I just don't rest my body, and that's led to some health problems. So hopefully that's sort of an aim in the next 3 years, is I reckon I can become an even better gymnast just by letting myself have a rest and enjoy life outside of sport as well.
Yeah, and I think it is a constant balance. Like, it's a bit of a seesaw. Like, you try and put a bit more effort into one thing, and then the other thing goes up and doesn't work out the way you want. And it is constantly trying to find that balance. And I think the biggest thing that I've sort of learned along the way from doing this podcast is that a lot of people have been able to establish themselves as a person, and then their athlete selves comes next. But them as a person needs to come first. But it is really hard to find that balance. I mean, I haven't worked it out yet. I'm still trying to figure out what that looks like, because it is trying to figure out, how do I put all this time in sport that it needs to be the best athlete that I can be and achieve the goals that I want, but also make time for other things.
Yeah, and even I was doing an interview with my teammate Alana, who's team captain, and we actually started gymnastics together in Adelaide, which is wild because she moved to Brisbane. She lived here for about 8 years before I even moved up to be in the team. So we began together and we went to the pinnacle of our dreams together. So that was super cool. But we did an interview and we got asked a question, which was, what are you most worried about post-Olympic life? And I just said, she said she's worried that she won't be able to match what she's done at the Olympics for the rest of her life. But for me, I thought it was weird getting asked that question, because I'd never thought about my life post-Olympics. Like, I knew what I wanted to do with career and that sort of thing. But my biggest worry in life before the Olympics was not going to the Olympics, because all throughout my life, I've always wanted to go to the Olympics. And my biggest worry was, what happens if I don't achieve that? So that's kind of weird, going into the future, like just thinking that's what all I worried about my whole entire life was gymnastics. It wasn't about the other things in life. So that's going to be, as I said, that's going to be an aim, thinking more about the other things like happiness and enjoyment outside of sport, because you can't just be one-sided. You can't just be Emily the gymnast, and you can't be Emily the gymnast when you're 70 years old. You need to be Emily. And what does that mean? It's not just gymnastics. There's many parts that come with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as athletes, being very goal driven, we can get tunnel vision, and that we only see one thing and everything else gets blocked out. And then once that's thing achieved, it's like, oh, okay, well, now what? Like, you haven't taken the time to consider what comes after that. You've been so focused on this one thing, and then you've ticked that off. It's like, oh, well, now what do I have? And I think I listened to Libby Trickett's podcast as well, and she talks to retired athletes. And that's probably one of the biggest things I found is, they retire and it's like, okay, well, what do I do? I don't know what I'm good at. I've never spent time doing other things, and they haven't done like exercise just cause. It's always been for a purpose. Like, how do you be fit and healthy just cause?
Yeah. And I think my foot's been a good reminder of that, because I'm not allowed to run. The only thing I'm allowed to do is sit on a chair and do some, twiddle the ribbon and that sort of thing. So I think that's been like a good reminder that, exercise isn't just for a purpose either. It's got to be for enjoyment. And when you said about Libby Trickett, Anna Mears, do you know Anna Mears?
Yeah.
Oh, she's my favorite athlete. She's just incredible. But she's gone through a very similar thing. I read her book. I haven't read her second book, but I've listened to podcasts, and she just talks about how much she struggled with her mental health when she stopped being an athlete. And because I plan to be an athlete for the next 3 years, that's why I'm sort of getting back into university. I had to defer it for the Olympics and setting up my future, because I have realized how important it is to have a plan after gymnastics, because I don't get paid to be a gymnast. I have to work in my spare time to be a gymnast, but I need to have a plan for afterwards. So yeah, that's sort of what I've realized from listening to those podcasts as well, that you just can't be an Olympian forever. You can't walk around, that's not what life's about, and it doesn't bring you happiness ultimately in the end.
Yeah. And it's so interesting you mentioned Anna Meares, because I have her book. I literally got her new book the other day. I haven't started reading it, but I'm so keen, because I know that she had a really serious injury where she broke her back. And I recently fractured my spine, and I've had surgery to fix it. And I'm in the rehab process now. So I'm really excited to read that. I mean, obviously we're in different levels of our sport, but that same sort of motivation to get back to doing what you love is still the same. So I'm really intrigued to see what sort of things she did to overcome that.
Yeah, well, I read her book, the first one, and I cried multiple times in it. She's embodies what I believe an athlete should have, like grit, resilience, and hard work. But no, what have you sort of done to keep positive throughout? Because I'm sort of at the beginning. I'm only 2 weeks into my foot injury, and I'm not going to be off crutches anytime soon, and it's going to be a long road back. So what sort of things have you done to keep positive and keep going, sort of thing?
I mean, it's tough. I initially was injured about 2.5 years ago, where it'll be 3 start of next year. And initially it was sort of like a rib inflammation sort of thing. And then it's been my back, and it's taken a long time. I didn't find out until the beginning of this year that it is actually a fracture of my spine. And I think a very common perceived incorrect myth, I guess I would say a myth, that is when you break your back, you have paralysis or some sort of, you can't feel certain things, you're in hospital, you can't do things. But I was still very much functioning, or whilst in pain, I was still doing everything. Like I was still training, even though my spine was fractured. I continued to train and just sucked up the pain. So at the moment, as we're recording this, I'm about 8 weeks post-surgery, and it is hard. There is still a lot of physical limitations that I have. I'm not allowed to bend. So little things like I can't make my bed, or bending down to pick up my clothes to put them in the wash basket. I'm not allowed to lift anything. I can't twist. So I have to do the typical log roll that they teach you in hospital to get out of bed.
Oh no.
Yep. So still doing that, even though we're 8 weeks down the track, but I'm doing rehab. So I can do that twice a week. I think the benefit I have at the moment being in Melbourne is we're in lockdown.
Yeah.
And basically the day after surgery, when we went into lockdown here. So since I've had surgery, no one else has been able to swim here in Melbourne. So I know I'm not missing it as much, but I think that's made it easier. As hard and as sucky as lockdown is, I know no one else is able to swim either. So I'm not falling further behind.
Yeah.
But I think one of the main things, I mean, I was shit scared of going into surgery, but I think something that I knew going in is I was going to struggle mentally with this. It is hard, and it is a really long road to recovery. Like it's going to be months. I won't get like a full, like you're a normal human being that can do whatever you want physically again, I think until about 9 to 12 months. Yeah. So it is a really long time, but I did go in knowing that it's going to be hard, and I took pictures and videos every time I did something. So the first time I started walking again in hospital, I got mum to take a video. So now, excuse me. So I have a video of me walking for the first time, and I have a walker and I do about 10 steps. Now I have no limitations on my walking. So whilst I can't bend or twist, I can walk as far as I want, and I'm not in pain anymore when I do that. Whereas before surgery, I couldn't even walk a kilometer or walk around the block without being in pain. Or I can sleep through the night now, and I couldn't do that before surgery. So I've taken notes at like different milestones throughout, so that if I am having a bad day, I can look back and be like, hey, last week I couldn't do this week in rehab, I got to do squats.
Yeah.
Haven't done squats since I've had surgery. That's a new milestone. And just writing those things down and just checking them off like, okay, today's a bad day. That's okay. But look at how much I've done.
That's so cool. And celebrating the small wins, that's so important as well. I sort of did a similar thing when I went through my hip surgeries, because I was pretty similar. I couldn't move. I was on the couch for 7 months, and it's cool to look back and see how far you've come, and like all the setbacks, all the little wins just make it all worth it.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, like I have bad days. Like there's plenty of times where I lie in bed and cry because I can't do the things that I love doing. But
Yeah.
I do, and it's fine to do that. Like if I have to spend a whole day and just eat a block of chocolate and watch Netflix, then that's what I'll do, because it is not an easy process. And if you have bad days, then that's fine. But it is important to also look back and say, I have done a lot of things and I have had those small wins along the way.
Yeah, because I think I really struggled. In like 2016, I had 2 hip surgeries. And as I said, I was on the couch for 7 months, and it took me 1.5 years to get back to competition. But I really struggled mentally with that. I was crying pretty all day, every day. It was so weird. I never lost determination to get back into the sport, but that as a similar thing to like, you know, when athletes finish up, it's like, who am I if I'm not a gymnast? And I just felt rubbish. And I saw all my friends on social media posting themselves doing gymnastics, and it was like my closest friend, and I just feel like I couldn't stand them. I was angry at them for doing something that I'd love so much and that I couldn't control happen to me. So that's what I really struggled. And I don't know if it was not being able to move and those endorphins and that sort of thing, but yeah, mentally, like those were the hardest days of my life, was not being a gymnast. And I think that's why I haven't stopped and don't want to stop, because I absolutely love movement. And coming back from COVID, doing Zoom as a group gymnast, could you imagine being in a room, like having 1.5 meters, pretending you're throwing to 4 other team members and your coach is playing the music? It was a disaster. That it just doesn't work. But even getting back into the gym, and you know, it took weeks for us to get back to routines, but when we got back to routines, I just loved moving. So I think for me, I just also love getting my body moving and that sort of thing. And when that's taken away from you, it's very hard, and you just don't get all of that happiness released in your brain and in your body. So I think that's something that lots of athletes struggle with as well when they're injured.
Yeah. And I think it's a really interesting point that you touched on, is that you were so angry at people that you genuinely love and care about doing the things that you cannot physically do at that time. I've had that even recently. And I think even when I was injured before I had the surgery, I was getting frustrated. I'm like, I can't even do basic things. Like I can't even sleep through the night. Like I'm like 23 now, but at the time, like 22, like 21, 22, I can't even sleep through the night. I can't even walk down to the shops without being in pain. Why can't I do these things and everybody else can? And I think you just get really frustrated with yourself, that it's like, I know my body can do these things. It's just not letting me. And it just gets very frustrating and very overwhelming. And people that you normally would love and support and encourage doing all these things, you're just like, I just want to do it. I want to do that. And you just get angry at them.
Yeah, it's not very nice of us, is it?
No.
But no, that's just how you feel. And like, but yeah, you just got to always remember to celebrate those small wins. That's so important. And then you'll look back after all of this when you're better, and you know, who would have thought that this girl that was I was never supposed to walk properly again. I couldn't. I went to Melbourne 10 times they couldn't understand what was going on. We didn't think I'd be able to walk again properly. And I stepped onto the floor last month and I went to the Olympic Games, my biggest childhood dream. And that's, you know, 4 years later, and that's pretty bloody cool. So no, just it's cool to look back and see what you can achieve. That as long as you believe in yourself more than anything and more than the setback itself, then I think magical things can happen.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree any more than that. What would you say? I mean, obviously you've had a few injuries. Would you say that that has been one of your biggest setbacks so far?
That one was the longest setback and the most frustrating setback. But another hard one, which I'm still a little bit overcoming. I still get some symptoms, but I'm pretty much recovered. I got a concussion in late 2019. It was 2 weeks before an Olympic trial, and I kept training for it that session and that night. I knew there was something wrong. I remember I was filling up my car at the petrol station. I went to speak and I couldn't speak properly. I was like, oh no, that's not quite right. And I went to training that night. And after that, my teammate drove me to the hospital, and I was out. They just said, you'll be out for a couple of weeks. And I went to the sports doctor, and I was a mess. But it was because I kept training. If I would have pulled out of training, I probably would have been back in the gym within a week. But I had double vision. I couldn't speak. My mum came up to look after me, and I remember she got new shoes, and I was trying to say to her, are those comfortable? And all that could come out my mouth was fittable. So I couldn't communicate. And so it was, me walking. I lived in an apartment, me walking from my bedroom to the couch, which was 4 meters away, was like an absolute effort. And that took a week for me to do. And it felt like I'd just exercised for 20 hours that day. So that one was hard to come through because you can't see it. That was the most annoying thing. And I had, still do rehab for it, but I had lasers on my head and I'm tracing things on the wall. I go to the gym. Well, I can't at the moment, but I'll go to the gym after almost every morning training session. I'll be on the bike listening to music, doing brain game activities. So the concussion's actually been one of the hardest things I've gone through, just because you can't see it and it's always there, like the migraines and that sort of thing. But as I said, like, as an athlete, if you go through those sorts of things, you're going to come out stronger in the end and be able to achieve more things. And being an athlete isn't smooth sailing. And that's what the grit resilience and, all the hard work is what makes you the athlete.
100%. But I also think too that, it's evident in your story there is that as athletes, we can be a bit stubborn and we push through things when sometimes we probably shouldn't push through.
Like my foot. No, for sure. That's been something I've had to overcome the most. And my coach always tells me off because I always do more, and more is not more. More can be worse. So that's what I've been having to learn, and which is something I've really struggled with. I've done lots of sports psychology on it, and that's the reason I did my foot, because I was at the AIS and I'd always had a jammy foot. I'm like, oh, it's just a jammy foot. So I just kept jumping on it. I wasn't even supposed to be in the gym. I was in the gym after our training session doing 2 hours by myself. I was just jumping on this sore foot, and then it was sad. So that's what I've had. That's a good take home lesson from all of that, was sometimes doing what you're supposed to do in the gym and not doing the extra work. That's not really what you need now. Like, you've done all the hard work. Just be smart. Train smart, not hard, is what my coach in Adelaide used to say, Romana. She's very special to me. Train smart, not hard. So that's something I'm still coming to terms with, and especially with this foot injury right now, that's what I need to learn to do better.
Yeah. And I think sometimes we get a bit caught up too, because I think, from my point of view, when I was younger, it was sort of drilled into me that you push through the pain. Yeah. Like, you don't give up. You just keep going, you keep pushing, and you'll break through that barrier. But I think as we get older, it's like, okay, maybe this feeling is there for a reason. I need to step back, listen to my body. Is it just my body's working really hard, or is there something that's not quite right?
Yeah. And now that I'm an older athlete, I'm actually the oldest rhythmic gymnast in Australia. I need to listen to my body more. So that's next year.
I know it's crazy how, early to mid 20s is like old for an athlete.
So old. I'm so old. I'm the grandma rhythmic gymnast of, Australia at the moment, which is absolutely crazy. And everyone talks to me and they go, oh, you're so young. I'm like, no, I'm not young. I'm the oldest in Australia. But no, it's pretty cool to be the oldest, but just got to be smart from now on, because at the next Olympics, which I'm aiming for, I would be 27, and that's really old for a gymnast. So now it's important for me to do the magic, listen to my body more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you say then? How would you react when something doesn't necessarily go to plan? You have an off day. What is the first sort of words that come to mind? Is it like, oh, damn it, Emily, like you did really bad? Or is it, okay, like let's take that in and see what we can do now? What's sort of the first thing that comes to mind?
I struggle with that a lot at training sessions. At competitions, I've got a lot better because my nerves will affect the group routine. So since I've been a group gymnast, I was an individual gymnast up until I moved to Brisbane, and I was always put a lot of pressure on myself and was really nervous in competitions. Now I don't get as nervous as much because I know my performance and nerves will affect how the team goes, how the group competes. So I've become a lot better. So at competitions, I always make sure to remind myself I've done the hard work, be calm, cool, calm, capable, and just bang it sort of thing. At training, I struggle a lot more with those negative things. It's actually my teammates that pull me out. But I've been working on that, and it's sort of remaining in the present. And sometimes if I'm really struggling with it, I'll write like a little thing on my wrist that says IAA, which means I'm an Abbot. And that sort of reminds me of my dad and my mum and how hard they work and how resilient they are. And that sort of carries me through. And the song Que Sera, Sera, it's like from the 1960s, but it sort of reminds you like you can't control what happens in the future, just remain the present. Whatever happens will happen. So just be in the now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a really good thing to keep in mind, because you can only control what you can control. Like outside of that, there's no point stressing and worrying about it because there's nothing you can do to change it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What kind of impact do you think sport has had on your life?
Oh, wow. What impact? It is my life. So we're trying to change that a little bit. We're trying to become more Emily. But yeah, I don't know. I can't remember myself without Rhythmic, even though I started when I was 10. I started really late, but sport is my life. It makes me happy. It's allowed me to achieve my biggest dreams. And gosh, yeah, sports. I absolutely love rhythmic gymnastics. I love the feeling of going on the floor and competing. I love my teammates. I love my coach. I just love being able to travel the world and meet other athletes, and even being in the Olympics every single day, I'd go to myself, God, this is amazing. I never want this to end. And that's why I want to go to Paris 2024, because there's been no feeling I've ever experienced in my life that was that amazing. I just remember sitting on the bus going from the village to the airport to come home, and I just felt somber, like felt nothing, which was really weird because I knew I was leaving somewhere that had put that I now have such a special place in my heart. So I just absolutely love being a gymnast and experiencing things like that. And little gymnasts, my favorite thing is going to training and, a little gymnast like comes up to you and you have a little chat, or they'll bring you a little note. I just love the community and everything. I love meeting people from overseas, from around Australia. It's just the whole thing. Just love it all.
Absolutely. And you kind of said it a little bit there that you have little kids coming up to you. You look up to Anna Mears as a very great athlete. How does it make you feel that someone could perceive you in that same way?
It makes me want to cry. So like when the little gymnast came up and gave me a letter last week, and it was just the cutest little thing. It sort of reminds you where you come from and how much you looked up to the older athletes. Because I think it's weird, and it's been weird doing interviews and that sort of thing, because I don't look at myself as an athlete. I'm just a girl that's always trained to try and get to the Olympics. I don't see myself as anything special, and that's all I've ever wanted my whole entire life. So it's weird having people come up to me and getting asked to do interviews and that sort of thing, because I'm just Emily, the little gymnast. That's all I've ever been. That's how I feel. I feel like one of those little girls. So it's weird when they come up to you and do that sort of thing as well. It's like someone's coming up to yourself that just loves the sport and wants to do as best as they can.
Yeah, I think it's so cool, and it's so interesting that you say that, is that you almost see yourself as one of those kids that are coming up to you still.
Yeah, it's true. And like going overseas to the Olympics and you're surrounded by all these girls, it's like, I want to be like you. I want to work harder to be like you. I want to go to Paris 2024 and I want to be as much like you as I can. So that's the goal. I want to, we basically won gold. We were the first group in history to ever go to the Olympic Games. My group, it took my coach Gina Peluso 25 years to get a group to the Olympics, and it was so cool to be a part of that. And now I want Australia to go to the next Olympic Games, to go to the World Cups next year and the year after. And, Australia are here and they're going to, be contenders. I want to be a part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you say then are some of your upcoming goals? Like obviously Paris is one of them. Are there any other goals that you have coming up?
Oh, it's just lots of little smaller goals at the moment. My first goal is to get this little foot better. So, well, that's the goal. But the goal is World Cups, to try and, get into the finals. That would be so super cool. Australia in the finals, that's never happened before. So that would be a big goal. And I think, with 5 girls that work extremely hard and all that fun stuff, things can happen. This was only the beginning for group, and I hope by 2032 you might see Australia on the podium. That would be pretty cool.
It would be pretty cool. Maybe we can do it even earlier than that.
Maybe. That'd be very
I love to do 3 questions to finish with. And this is probably my most favorite question is, what is something that you're most proud of about yourself?
What I'm most proud of? Oh, I think what I'm most proud of is, and I think it's a values thing, because I've grown up with my family and that's where you get your values from, is hard work. I'm very, very proud of how hard I work. It has led to some very magical things. And I think the harder you work, the luckier you get.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love asking that question so much because there's such a variety of answers that I've heard, and very little does sport come up in that. As you said, it comes down to values and about the person that you are.
Yeah, for sure.
So great. The next question is, what is your favorite quote and or the best piece of advice that you've been given?
Oh, there is a quote, but I don't know who it's by, and I don't know if I'm going to voice it very well. But it's sort of like the way I like to live life. It's something like, what are you going to do with your one wild and precious life? So I've always believed that being a dreamer is so super important. Like, it doesn't matter how ridiculous your dreams are, that if you work hard, you're going to make it, sort of thing. So I think have the wildest dreams, go for it. And if you don't make it, well, who cares? Look at what you've done along the way to achieve it. So just you've only got one short little life, so make the most of it.
Yeah, I think there's another quote, and I'm probably going to butcher this, but it's something like, aim for the moon when you fall amongst the stars, or something like that.
One, I do like that one.
Yeah, it's a good one. The last question I have for you is any tips that you have for those that are listening?
Any tips? It is sort of backtracking a little bit, but yeah, it's always dream big, go for it, and don't give up when facing the face of adversity, and make sure you love every single moment, and treat those around you with lots of respect and kindness. I think kindness as a value is like the most special thing, and the connections you can make from it are incredible as well.
Absolutely. Spread kindness like confetti, I think I saw written somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing all the amazing insights that you have. I'm sure there's many people out there listening that will get so much from this chat.
Thank you so much for having me, Renee. I've absolutely loved chatting to you today.
No worries.